This guy is living proof that love can flip your world. The deadliest assassin on Earth turned into a 9-to-5 dad, and apparently he's swallowing enemies now instead of wasting them. But hey, a man without a belly's got no stories to tell, right? So be a champ, smash that like button, and drop a Sakamoto Days 2 in the comments if you want me to continue. No more yapping, let's roll the tape. It all starts with a dude named Sakamoto getting ambushed by some suit-wearing psychos. Bloodthirsty as heck, but the man is so hardcore he one-shots them all. Think Asian John Wick vibe. Then, out of the blue, we learn he's not just any assassin, but a legendary hitman. The mere mention of his name makes even the devil sweat. One day, while he's casually grocery shopping, probably hunting for fried snacks to bring home, he bumps into this super adorable cashier who almost gives him a mental glitch. His heart's pounding, and he instantly decides she's the one. No time wasted. He dumps the killer life, marries this gal, and they even have a daughter. Over time, he ditches the weapons and warms up to a calmer life, piling on a few pounds in the process. Now he's more like a chill barbecue uncle than the notorious assassin everyone once feared. Meanwhile, some punk kid shows up at his shop and decides to play Robin Hood. He draws a bullseye on the door and taunts fate. If he nails the target, Sakamoto has to slip him a knuckle sandwich. Of course, he misses big time. Then, to make it worse, he spills paint everywhere and splashes a Yakuza dude's pants just as he's walking in. The mobster's fuming, grabs the kid by the collar, ready to teach him a lesson. But before it all goes south, Sakamoto steps in and sorts it out. In his mind, that Yakuza would have been 6 feet under with a pencil jammed in his carotid. But he kept his killer instincts in check and just calmed everyone down. At that moment, a blonde guy named Shin was outside, watching it all. He realized that even chubby and out of shape, Sakamoto was still freakishly fast and lethal. Shin, an old buddy of his, enters the shop for a chat and cuts right to the chase. He wants Sakamoto back in the crime biz. But Sakamoto's all about being the neighborhood handyman these days. He trims tree branches, helps kids eat their veggies, and even moonlights as a life coach. Shin can't believe his eyes and starts mocking this new Sakamoto. He remembers how feared the guy used to be, known as the greatest assassin in existence, and thinks it's ridiculous he's now a tame shop owner. Later on, Shin gets a call from his boss demanding an update. The big boss wants Sakamoto back in the underworld or out of the picture permanently. He warns Shin that if he doesn't handle it, someone else will. The blondie feels the weight of that threat and decides he'll deal with his old partner himself. Next day, Shin shows up at Sakamoto's shop, intending to take him out. He tries to shoot, but Sakamoto, totally nonchalant, spits out a bullet he'd been chewing and deflects the shot. As if that weren't enough, he MacGyvers a slingshot out of some candy, blasts Shin silly, and caps it off with a high-grade action flick kick that floors the blonde dude. A few hours later, Shin wakes up upstairs in the shop, battered, only to be greeted by Sakamoto's wife inviting him to dinner like nothing happened. Even after nearly icing her husband, Shin still gets a seat at the table. Before Shin even took a bite, he was already on edge, convinced the food was laced with poison. But being trained to tank even the sketchiest chili con carne, he just went for it. And with the first spoonful, the guy got emotional. Dude, this tastes like it was made by angels. But it was so flaming hot he nearly scorched his tongue. While he chatted with Sakamoto's family, he felt something tugging at his heart. After a bit of thinking, he finally got why Sakamoto quit being a hitman. The reason was obvious. He just wanted to protect those simple family moments. After dinner, Shin thanked them for the warm and low-key scary in his mind hospitality and went to meet the gang's boss. The boss asked straight up, "So, did you take out Sakamoto?" But Shin stayed quiet, and the boss instantly guessed the mission bombed. He and his goons started laughing, asking why Shin was all tense. The blonde dude, feeling sentimental, said, "He's changed. He's got a family now, man." But the boss shut him down. Rules are rules. Whoever walks away from this syndicate gets whacked. No exceptions. Sensing the heat, Shin tried another approach and offered up himself instead. He said that since he pointed a gun at Sakamoto, the only way to atone was to sacrifice his own life. The boss pretended to agree but secretly planned to ice Sakamoto anyway, after offing Shin. But the blonde kid wasn't dumb. He read the boss's mind using telepathy and realized the guy was filthier than a neglected litter box. Busted, the boss flipped out and told his goons to finish Shin off on the spot. Meanwhile, Sakamoto, who'd been eavesdropping through a bug planted on Shin's gun, switched on legendary assassin mode and grabbed his hidden arsenal. Shin managed to knock a few henchmen down, but then a sniper tried to pop him from above, making things dicey. Even so, Shin was quick enough, and despite taking a bullet to the foot, he dodged the rest using his mind reading to predict enemy moves. But ammo was running low, and he got surrounded. In that nail-biter moment, Sakamoto swooped in out of nowhere, armed with a taser, zapping everyone with surgical accuracy, without ending a single life. The boss, in panic, ordered all his men to dogpile Sakamoto, but they just got stomped like a minor league team facing the pros. Finally, Shin, seeing his friend in action, declared, "That's the real legendary assassin." Only his appearance changed. After the dust settled, Shin asked how Sakamoto knew everything. Sakamoto pulled the bug off Shin's gun and showed he doesn't miss a thing. Shin admitted Sakamoto's still the same legend as ever. And when he said he was leaving town, Sakamoto shoved an apron in his arms, offered a job at the store, and even mentioned how much it paid. Sometime later, Shin was on the job, using his telepathy to hand customers what they needed before they said a word. But he soon noticed Sakamoto gobbles more than he actually sells, especially ramen. During a delivery, a kid started chatting Shin up, asking if he liked his new gig. Shin said it was way better than his old line of work. But when the kid asked what that used to be, Sakamoto shot him that "say it and you're toast" glare. Shin got the hint and answered he just took out the trash before. Once Shin joined the team, he was on fire, basically Employee of the Month material. But while he talked up Sakamoto, he got carried away praising him for supposedly wiping out baddies in one move last time. Sakamoto, in total Zen mode, denied it all, explaining he only used non-lethal hits. That's when Sakamoto's wife piped up for laughs. "Remember, if you break our rules, I'll dump you." That crushed him so hard he went pale. She then smirked, saying it was just a test. Curious, Shin asked what these rules were, but Sakamoto shot him that "wanna be a corpse?" glare. To chill things out, Sakamoto took Shin to a market stand to grab some bao buns. Of course, Shin, using his mind reading, realized he just wanted to treat his daughter. As they strolled, their peace got rocked when a red-haired girl jumped from the third floor, crashing right onto Sakamoto, flattening all his buns. Dude's happiness ended right there. Before they could react, some bulky thugs rolled up after the redhead. Even though she looked roughed up, she fought back, dropping two of them. Then a third guy grabbed her, calling the others over. One pulled out a knife and threatened to slice her leg. But Sakamoto grabbed a bread tong and snapped the knife like it was made of Play-Doh. Next, he whacked the thug so hard the dude passed out cold. The redhead, jaw on the floor, could only think, "Who is this beast?" Meanwhile, Shin wasted no time and leveled another goon with a clean strike. But then, one of the thugs whipped out a gun, ready to settle the score. The girl countered him with some slick kung fu, and he was knocked out. Before they could breathe, even more enemies showed up. Sakamoto had to scoop the girl into his arms and break into a turbo sprint, with Shin close behind. Somewhere else, the boss of these henchmen was livid. One minion tried to explain that two random dudes messed everything up, but the boss smacked him around with a cane. To up the ante, he summoned the twin assassin, telling them they could kill anyone their way. Those twin psychos were pumped out of their minds. While the three fugitives were hanging out on a rooftop, the girl revealed she belonged to a famous mafia clan. She showed off a key, explaining it belonged to the clan's secret vault. But Shin, in his jokester way, suggested she toss it, saying it wasn't worth the trouble. She got emotional, sharing how her parents died protecting that key, vowing never to let it fall into the wrong hands. Still, she apologized for dragging the two of them into this mess, saying it wasn't really their problem. When she threatened to leave, Sakamoto yanked Shin by the collar to stop him from chasing after her. He asked if the girl knew how to make Chinese buns, and she said her dad taught her. Sakamoto then said he'd help her, on one condition. She'd have to make some buns for. Shin thought that deal sounded nuts, but before they could hash it out, one of the twins suddenly showed up and sent Sakamoto flying, practically turning him into a human soccer ball. The girl complained they'd been wasting time while things kept getting worse. A confused Shin asked who these random weirdos were, and she explained they were pro-assassins famous for sketching the faces of their victims as a hobby. The twins started bragging, but Shin took the chance to roast them, saying assassins who chase fame should be ashamed. That got the twin even more steamed, and he tried to attack the girl behind. But Sakamoto zoomed in like lightning, delivering such a monstrous punch that the guy went face first into the floor. The impact was so huge it took out the whole floor, sending everyone crashing down. Amid the rubble, the remaining twin tried to stand, but he already knew he'd messed with the wrong dude. Meanwhile, Sakamoto was still in peace and love mode, thinking a bean paste bun would really hit the spot. That's when this Sanrei guy showed up with villain-level talk. "Hand over the key, and I'll finish you off quick and painless." The girl wasn't playing and snapped, "No way! I'd rather die fighting." So the dude sneered, "Your folks said the same thing before I sliced them up." and that was the last straw. She lost it and charged him, but Sakamoto held her back, throwing her behind him. Shin took the moment to give the usual, "Keep cool, don't let him mess with your head" lecture. But she poured her heart out, explaining the vault symbolizes her family's entire history and her father died defending it. She was so caught up in emotion that she dropped her guard, letting Sonrei fling a kunai her way. As usual, Sakamoto casually caught the kunai, but the blade cut his hand. Seeing his blood, she asked why he was protecting someone he'd been know. That set off a flashback of Sakamoto and his wife back at the beginning. He remembered Christmas, bringing her a gift while still covered in blood, saying he'd gotten money. She refused it, insisting she didn't want anything earned by killing. Mid-argument, she threatened to jump off a ledge, so Sakamoto lunged after her and they both fell into the snow. She told him something that changed his life. Everyone has somebody they love, and he had to promise never to kill again. Coming back to the present, Shin, who'd been seeing it all with his telepathy, felt touched. All of a sudden, the Psycho twins attacked Sakamoto and Shin. The two held their own. The twins tried a crazy move, striking from every direction, but Sakamoto dodged everything like he was dancing. In the end, he felt his neck crack a bit, and Shin handed him some pain relief gel. Ticked off, the twins launched another move, but Sakamoto struck first. He hurled an object so hard into Baldy's head that the guy blacked out instantly. The emo brother flipped out and rushed in, but Sakamoto shattered his weapon like it was a plastic toy. Realizing he was outmatched, Emo tried going after but Shin snared his neck with a rope and dropped him. Sakamoto sealed the deal by hurling a fridge on him. Shocked, the girl asked who they were, and Sakamoto just said they were shop clerks. Later, the gang's leader, freaking out, asked about the twins. Before he could say more, the girl showed up, holding a knife at his throat. Shin egged her on to smack him around, but Sakamoto told him to zip it. She finally opened the vault, finding a bunch of heirlooms passed down the generations. She discovered a bottle of liquor and a note from her dad saying he wanted to drink it with her once she was old enough. Moved to tears, she called it the best liquor in the world. The three ended up sharing some squashed buns together, having a chill moment. Next day, Sakamoto showed up at the store with a monster hangover, and Shin realized the girl was working there too. Sakamoto explained she was now part of the family and repeated the one rule: nobody kills. He glared at Shin and warned, "Break that rule and I'll break you." Meanwhile, somewhere else in town, some shady figures were watching Sakamoto's shop. A photo of him appeared with a crazy bounty, 1 billion yen for the old guy's head. All he wants is a quiet life, but it seems trouble won't let up anytime soon. The next day, Lou showed up at Sakamoto's store for another day of work, yawning like she'd just run a marathon. Shin, already on edge, snapped at her for being late. As they tried to keep the store running, Shin found a new reason to lose his cool. Lou started putting items in the most random places, like soap in the drink cooler. Shin, now fully stressed, concluded she'd never had a job before. Lou owned up to it, but mentioned she used to help her dad dig huge holes and bury suspicious bags. Seeing them at each other's throats, Sakamoto decided to step in and restore order. But that's when Lou and Shin noticed something weird. Sakamoto was suddenly talking non-stop, which was way out of character. Minutes later, the real Sakamoto strolled into the store, plopped down in his usual chair, and said nothing. Turns out, the talkative Sakamoto was actually Nagumo, an old partner of his, pulling a prank. Nagumo tried to play it cool, spinning wild stories about being an 18-year-old who worked at a market across the street. Shin, not buying it, pointed out there wasn't even a store there. Sakamoto confirmed Nagumo was full of it, revealing that Nagumo was a professional assassin from his era and was actually 27, not 18. Fed up, Lou and Shin took matters into their own hands and gave Nagumo a proper beating to shut him up. Once things settled, Nagumo dropped the real bombshell. There was a 1 billion yen bounty on Sakamoto's head. Lou called BS, but Nagumo swore it was legit, saying the bounty had been officially posted by some mysterious organization. Mid-conversation, a pizza delivery guy arrived with a shady smile. Taking his chance, he tied up Nagumo and tried to use him as a hostage. Meanwhile, Sakamoto, completely unfazed, was more interested in eating the pizza. Nagumo escaped on his own and choked the guy out, but Sakamoto told him to chill and not kill the dude. Nagumo, ever sarcastic, asked if Sakamoto really thought he could fend off all these assassins without killing anyone. He explained that the killers after him weren't amateurs, then, with classic Nagumo humor, joked that he was one of them. Of course, he quickly admitted he was kidding. Before leaving, Sakamoto asked what anyone would gain from his death. Nagumo shrugged, saying assassins just follow orders without asking why. Meanwhile, the people who sent the pizza guy were watching everything live. One mocked Sakamoto, saying a chubby guy like him wasn't worth that much money. But another, a cautious, warned them not to underestimate Sakamoto, reminding them he used to be part of the legendary order and could still turn the tables. That's when Sakamoto, appearing on their live feed, stared straight at them and delivered a chilling message. "Keep coming after me, and I'll send every last one of you straight to hell." The moment Sakamoto dropped that warning on live TV, he smashed the camera just to make sure his enemies couldn't keep spying on him. The guys on the other end were freaking out, like, how the hell did this big guy even know there was a camera? The next morning, Sakamoto was chatting with Shin when his family reminded him about the big Sugar Bunny event happening at the park. He immediately started kicking himself for completely forgetting. When the day came, they headed out to have fun on the rides. But even while playing around, Sakamoto's mind kept drifting back to that 1 billion yen bounty. Noticing their boss all tense, Shin and Lu decided to spend the day as his personal bodyguard, making sure nothing his family's outing. But when they arrived at the park, it was packed like Black Friday at Walmart. Lu started griping. How are we supposed to spot a killer in this chaos? Shin, already annoyed, told her to chill, saying no one around had any murderous vibes, at least not yet. A few minutes later, though, Shin caught a weird thought. He whispered that an enemy was coming from the right, dressed like a janitor. As soon as the guy got close, Sakamoto moved like lightning and took him down with just a pen. They dragged the guy into some bushes because nobody wanted Mrs. Sakamoto seeing her husband go full John Wick. While cleaning up the mess, Lu and Shin were both blown away by Sakamoto's precision, even though he barely glanced at the target. Meanwhile, one of the assassins watching from afar realized Shin's mind-reading power was a huge issue. His solution? Just don't think. The guy walked past Shin like an NPC on autopilot, and Shin didn't sense anything off. But Lu, trusting her gut, thought the guy seemed sketchy. He didn't pick up any murderous intent, which only made Lu more suspicious. The man, who looked like he walked out of a horror movie, noticed them tailing him and decided to make his move. The assassin pulled out a gun and fired at Sakamoto, but the bullet just bounced off his bulletproof glasses. Seriously, when are we getting those in real life? Shin wasted no time tackling the guy, and they both fell out of the roller coaster into a secluded area. Out of nowhere, the assassin threw 2 poisoned knives, grazing Shin and causing him to collapse, his vision blurring. Standing over him, the enemy started monologuing. "The problem with people like you is your fear of death. It clouds your judgment." He even had the nerve to call Sakamoto rusty. Despite being down, Shin fired back. Sakamoto doesn't fear death. He's just protecting something more important, his family. That's why he's the strongest. While the assassin was processing that, the roller coaster came back around, and Shin used the momentum to launch himself at the guy. They tumbled into the middle of a children's theater performance, with Shin dressed as Sugar Bunny taking on the assassin. The crowd, thinking it was all part of the show, cheered for the super realistic fight. Even Mrs. Sakamoto commented that the performance seemed way too good to be scripted. Guided by Sakamoto, who was reading the assassin's intentions from the audience, Shin landed a double dropkick that sent the guy flying. The kids in the audience gave a standing ovation, thinking it was the grand finale of the play. Sakamoto, ever cool, simply said, "Nice job," making Shin beam with pride for being useful to the boss. This was straight-up movie-level action. If you're loving this anime as much as we are, drop a like, leave a comment, and smash that subscribe button. Stay tuned, and see you next time.